So let me share a little bit about my story briefly. Some of you had the opportunity to watch. You would have been sent a wealth pack and DVDs, etc. Some of you read my book. But I'll share my story not to impress you, but impress upon you that if some kid growing up on a farm can be open-minded enough to go and learn of successful people and transform his life, then perhaps other people can do that as well. I've been fortunate enough to meet many amazing people and take note of what made them successful. And I remember I grew up on a farm, northern New South Wales, near a town called Glen Innes. Does anyone know where Glen Innes is? Glen Innes is you're driving to Brisbane and from Melbourne. Great place to grow up, and I was taught to be successful. You go to school, get good grades, go to university, and you get a career, work 40, 50 years of your life, and you retire to the good life. How's that going for everyone in the 21st century, by the way? That was the formula that I was taught, and so that's what I did. I wasn't top of the class, wasn't bottom of the class. I was okay at school. I was more interested in playing sport. Where I come from, we played a game called Rugby League in Melbourne. You probably don't know what that is, right? And so I was more interested in playing sport than academically applying myself, but I was able to coast through school. But for some reason, at a young age, people say, Jamie, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say, I want to be rich. Now, I don't know where this come from. Was I a materialistic little kid? I don't think so. But rich to me meant being above average. I didn't want to settle for mediocrity. And maybe it was from playing Monopoly too much. I used to beat my brothers and sister at Monopoly. Or you remember that show on TV, Dallas? Who remembers Dallas? Okay, now you're showing your age, aren't you? Generation Y people going, Dallas? What the hell is that? But Dallas, if you remember that show, the oil tycoons, that looked good. That looked like, wow, one day I'd like to have nice things like that. So whatever impression was left on me, I wanted to do well in my life. So my career advisor at school said, Jamie, if you want to make lots of money, here's what we recommend you should do. You should go out and become an accountant. Now, any accountants in the room will think that's funny. Accountants count money, they don't necessarily make it all. And then I went off to university to do a career because I wasn't really sure at 18 years of age what do I want to do? I wasn't really sure. So like most people went off to university to do start a career that we weren't really sure whether it's for us or not. And so I went off to university. Now, my parents are farmers, and so we didn't have a lot of money. So I had to, my parents are here today, by the way. You probably saw them jumping up and down on stage. Can you believe that? Mum and Dad, please stay seated. We don't want you up on stage. So it's an honor and privilege to have them here this weekend because they haven't seen me speak for a few years. So where was I up to? On the farm, growing up, off university. So I remember this. So what I did to go to university, because I was taught education is the key to success. You've got to get a university degree. That'll help you. If you invest in a university degree, that'll help you get a higher paying job. And over 50 years of working, that higher paying job will certainly pay off and be a good return on your investment into your education. Now, we all sign up for that. That makes sense. So I sold my car. I borrowed money. I went into that hex debt with the government to go to university. It was very expensive. Actually, when I was sitting in lectures at university, I was actually listening to every word. Not because I was enthralled or inspired, because I worked out how much every word was bloody well costing me. That's the only reason I was listening to every word. I found accounting the most boring subject on earth. After a year, I decided to quit. It was not my passion. Now, I'm not recommending the key to success is quit, but I was doing an interview recently, and they're going, Jamie, what we want to know is how come many successful people all dropped out of university? There's a correlation to that. Now, I'm not suggesting drop out of university. I'm suggesting, though, this. Is it possible in today's world, the world has changed? Is it possible we may need more than just a school or university education? Yes or no? I'm suggesting absolutely yes. Why? Because if we look at our school system, most of us went to a 20th century school, which was designed in the 19th century. The 19th century was the industrialization era, true? In the 19th century, most people were self-employed. They lived in the farms. They were self-sufficient. And then industrialization created factories and mass production lines, and they needed workers. They needed people, just like it's happening in China now. People come from the rural areas to the cities to move the cities and become employees. So to be good employees, you had to teach people, jot this down, to conform. The idea of education was to create conformity, show up on time, obey the rules. I mean, you had to follow a system. And that's the essence of our education system in the 19th century. It taught people how to conform. 5-year-old kids go off to school, creative, little bright sparks, and they come out 12 years later, not such little bright sparks. Does that make sense? They've been dumbed down to conform. They often lose the innate ability that we need to become successful. So the 19th century was about industrialization, and that worked. Go to school, get a good job, because that's the way it used to be. But the world has changed. These days, jot this down, if you want to excel financially today, are you a conformist or do you need to do something different? Who says something different? Jot this down. This is what I suggest. In the 21st century, you want an education, you need to be creative. You look at Richard Branson. Is he a conformist or someone that's creative? He's obviously creative, true? Steve Jobs, let me think. Was he a conformist or is he creative? Oprah, conformist or creative? You look at anyone that's outperformed, they've usually had to unlearn what they're taught at school. So I'm not saying school is not valuable. It teaches how to read, write, and add up, well, hopefully. Yeah. Those things are important. And university is valuable because we invest 50, 100,000, 200,000 to a university degree, and over a period of time, we'll get an investment on that. Is there any guarantee of success when you go to university, yes or no? There's no guarantee, but people will borrow money, sell their car, work, and financially struggle for 4 to 5 to 6 years in some cases to put themselves through uni because we value our education. Make sense? So that's what I went off and did. I went to university, but here's what I asked the question. I asked my mother, 1991. I said, Mum, why isn't there a university that would teach you how to be successful in life? That was the question I asked. That seed was planted. Little did I know, a decade later, after I'd become successful and learned off many of my mentors, I would start 21st century education out of that idea. The idea is saying, you know what this world needs? The world needs a modern day education system designed for today's world, not for the 19th century, for today's world. And what would be the ultimate education system I would have liked to have learnt if I had that choice at school or university? And that's what I went about creating that. And I thought, you know what? At university, it's great to learn off professors. They're academically intelligent people, brilliant minds in many cases, but they have a PhD in theory. I realized if we're going to create a modern day education system that can change the world, it needs to be taught by those who have a PhD in results. Because there's a big difference, is that true? Because the world demands results of each and every one of us. So how do we go about assembling people that have produced real life results, whether it's in business, whether it's in finance, investing, in their careers? And that's critical. And as a result, that's how 21st century was born. That's how we get to have this conversation today. Because I asked my mum that simple question. Why isn't there a university that teach you how to be successful in life? So I dropped out of university and I went off to start a business. I moved to Sydney and eventually started the business. My business made some money in the beginning, telecommunications company. I figured out in the early 90s, by year 2000, everyone had a mobile phone. And as a result of that, I predicted a trend. And I had up to nearly 400 agents around the country in rapid time selling phones for me. So I started making money, and then I had issues in business because I'd never been taught how to run a business at school or university. I'd never been taught how to manage money, never taught how to invest. So I didn't have these skill sets. And my business, I had issues getting paid from some of the telcos, and my business failed. I found myself living in Sydney, $150,000 in debt, almost about to go bankrupt. And my dreams were up here, and my income was down here. And there was a big gap between. Does that make sense? So in life, if our dreams are up here, what we want in our life, and our reality is here, we have two choices. Is that true? We can either scale up our knowledge to get the level of income up to our dreams, or we can do what most people do. We start scaling our dreams down. Is that true? We scale our dreams down so it meets our level of income, and we live a settled full life. Raise your hand if you know some people like that. No one in here, of course, because you're not settling, but people out there have a settled for life. So one of the things that I decided to do was find a mentor. So sleeping on a friend's couch, broke, about to give up, and I had two choices. I could return to the farm and become a farmer, Now, my dad would remember this. I deliberately didn't take part in the lessons of how to be a farmer. All my brothers know how to shear a sheep. I don't. Okay? They know how to fix fences. I don't. Because I was smart enough at a young age to cut off my options. Because if I knew how to do those things, I would have had an option to go back to. I burnt the bridges. I was never going to be a farmer. No disrespect to farming. These days, I actually am a farmer. I own multiple farms. It's been one of my dreams. And I enjoy that. Okay? But that's because my brothers do the work and I just ride around watching them. So that's, if you want to be a farmer, you want to be a farmer that actually enjoys being a farmer. So where was I up to? There was something important I was about to share with you and I completely forgot. Mentor. Do we think mentors are important in our life? Yes or no? So I needed a mentor. And I share this with you because I want some people to say, well, Jamie, I'm not happy in my career. I'm thinking about changing my career. Or how do I become successful? How do I start a business? Or how do I move to where I want to go? So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I thought to myself, you know what? I need a mentor. My education didn't serve me. I need to learn, and I need to learn off people that are successful. I teach a lot of, Eric is my great friend, Eric, and was Eric amazing or what? Can we give Eric a big hand? I respect people. Eric's, a sincere, such a genuine person. We need more people like that in the world. But Eric donates a lot of his time with me. We do teenage youth summits. Our goal was to educate and provide this education to teenagers around the world, and especially in Australia. And we do free youth summits for teenagers. So if I'm teaching teenagers who want to become wealthy, if I'll say to a teenager, okay, let's see if we can figure this out. If you want to become rich, as an example, should you study A, poor person, or B, a rich person? Now, teenagers instantly know the answer, don't they? Of course, if you want to be rich, you should study a rich person. That would be normal. But fully matured adults, we're trying to teach adults to figure that out, they're like, I'm not really sure. Because if we look at why most people are not financially successful in a rich country, think about that. We live in one of the richest countries on the planet. We're so goddamn lucky to live in Australia. One of the richest countries on the planet, then how come most people are not rich? How come most people fail miserably financially? And that's what we've got to identify today. Because if we can figure out, my first mentor, when I found him, he said, Jamie, you want to be successful? Find out what most people are doing, and then do the exact what? Exact opposite. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you're heading in the right direction. That's important. And that's what I started to do. So how I found my first mentor is a friend of mine said, he was working for this company, and it was a group of financial services companies, real estate, and he said, you've got to come meet this guy. He's a private millionaire in Sydney. He became very wealthy through real estate. He owned a lot of land in North Sydney at the time, and he'd built an accounting firm, a financial planning firm, commercial real estate agent. He built a group of financial companies. And I'm like, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to learn. Can you try and get me a job there? Jot this down. We should work to learn, not to earn. The biggest mistake most people make, and I'll share with you now why most people are financially fail. Because why they go to a job is because they go to a job to why? Because of the what? Money. If they weren't paid the money, they would not go. If you're in a job, you only do it for the money, then I'm telling you, that's a recipe for failure. You look at anyone that's been successful, what will they tell you? What will Sir Richard Branson say? He will say, find your what? Find your passion and do it. You say, it's all right for billionaires, it's all right for millionaires, but what if I'm right here, right now? Well, in the beginning, you might have to do what it takes. Is it true? You might have to put up with a job you don't like. That's what I had to do. But we have to move. Jot this down. We want to move in the direction of our dreams. So what I did is I went out and my friend said, try and get a job here. So I went to try and get a job and there was no job going. So here's what I did to get my ideal career in the beginning. Because I was wanting to learn. I wanted to work there to learn the knowledge, serve my apprenticeship of how to become a millionaire, serve my apprenticeship in business and investing. I knew none of those things. I was not taught at school. So I said, here's what I said to one of the managers that was working in his company. I said, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to work for free. I'm willing to work for free for X period of time. And at the end of that period of time, X amount of weeks that is, if I can convince you that I can outperform all these other people you have working for you, then you'll agree to giving me a job. Is that a good strategy, yes or no? I don't know about the entrepreneurs in this room here, but if you had people come into your organization and said, I'm willing to work for free to prove myself, no risk to you. As an entrepreneur, you would love that, is it true? Because the greatest challenge being in business is finding good people. And you people that have initiative, are willing to do things. So I was willing to do what's called a risk reversal. Okay? Take away the risk. So that's how I got a job. But then here's what I also did. I was offered a salary position. Now, when you're sleeping on a friend's couch and you need to start paying some rent and you're about to go bankrupt, a nice, safe, secure salary would be very handy. True? You want to jot this down. The greater your ability, jot this down, the greater your ability to deal with uncertainty in your life. The greater your ability to deal with uncertainty in your life is your greater your ability to become wealthy. Would you like me to repeat that? Jot it down. The greater your ability to deal with uncertainty in your life is your greater your ability to become wealthy. It's your greater your ability to have better relationships, to have better health, to have a better career, to have a better business, to have better anything. The greater your capacity to deal with uncertainty in your life is the greater your capacity to become wealthy. Why? Well, that's what most people want. Most people want a safe, secure job. Safe, secure job. They want total certainty. Or if you talk to most people about investing, they'll go, I will do it as long as you can guarantee it. They want total certainty. So they will trade off the potential in a rich country to make millions of dollars. Did you know they divided all the wealth up in Australia? Every single one of us would be a millionaire. They worked it out more accurately before, almost $3 million each. So if you're not a millionaire yet, someone has your money. Get out there and make it happen. So there's not a lack of money in the world. Okay? If there is, don't worry, the Federal Reserve will print off plenty more. There's plenty of abundance in the world. I used to think that to become wealthy, you have to take from the poor. And one of my first mentors, he said, Jamie, the best way to help the poor is, guess what? Not be one of them. He said, not be one of them. He said, you're broke, I'm wealthy. He said, I have the capacity, time, and money to help other people. I make 15 times more money than I need. I thought, that's right, rich people are greedy bastards. That was my viewpoint there. I remember living on the farm. A nice Mercedes would drive up the country road. As kids, we'd go, bet you they stole the next door neighbor's cattle or they're drug dealers. Where the hell does this thinking come from? That the idea that rich is like something wrong with it. Okay? So that concept. So where was I up to? I met my mentor. So anyhow, that's how I got to meet my mentor. Some people say, well, Jamie, that's what I need. I need a millionaire mentor. You're lucky you got a millionaire mentor. How can I meet a millionaire mentor? Well, I don't know about Victoria, but in New South Wales, we had this program. I got a knock on the door one morning and this gentleman said, I'm your local self-made millionaire. I hear you want some free coaching on how to become a millionaire. I'm here to help you. Do they have that program in Victoria? You don't have that? Speak to your premier. It's a government problem because that's what made it easy for me. So no, I had to go and find a mentor and I had a series of mentors. But out of that, I started to work to learn, not so much to earn. I was passionate about that. And as a result of that, I learned how to eliminate debt rapidly. I learned how to invest in real estate, invest in stock market. I learned how to build businesses. I learned how to build multiple forms of income. My income took off. But the difference was this. I didn't take a safe, secure paycheck 17 years ago. I could have. It would have gave me security and certainty in my life. But I knew if I took that, I would have been comfortable. So I decided to go, so you know what? I'm happy to work here, but I want to work on performance. I want to work on contract, but I own my time. I will deliver results. I don't want to always be in the office, but I will deliver results. And you pay me on results. As a result of that, I knew I could outperform those that were earning a salary, thank God at Friday type people. They're just waiting for a paycheck, looking for the weekend. I knew I could outperform them because I was driven, I was passionate, I was committed. And as a result of that, my income skyrocketed. In less than 18 months, my income went to 750,000 plus. I eliminated my debt rapidly. So, Jamie, you earn that. That would certainly help. But the difference is if I took a salary position, then I would have stayed earning back then 50, 60, 70,000 a year. But because I didn't, I was willing to deal with the uncertainty. So Richard Branson, Does he have absolute certainty he knows exactly what he'll make this year? Or does he have total uncertainty? It's total uncertainty. He could make zero or make 150 million or $250 million. Let me ask you this question. Who's starting to like the idea of uncertainty? Does it make sense? The more our psychology is to be able to deal with uncertainty, the greater the capacity we have to be successful. Jot this down. You've heard me perhaps cover this before if you watch some DVDs. The key to success, 80% is psychology. If you want to become a millionaire, and I'm not here to advocate you have to become a millionaire. I'm saying I'm here to advocate and say, I don't care where you're at in your life right now, you can do better. And holding back, limiting yourself in any capacity in business and career, in any aspect of your life, does not serve you, does not serve your family, does not serve your community, and does not serve your country. This country needs more people to expand their wealth. So I often say, if you won't do it for yourself, will you do it for your country? Yes or no? In other words, you need to expand who you are. And the key to doing that is 80% is, jot this down, is mindset. To become successful in any endeavor, 80% is mindset. Only 20% is actual strategies. Now, if you want to be successful, you need both. You need both. If you just go, well, Jamie, I was like to my mentor, he started to teach me, right? And I'll be like, well, just, yeah, whatever. He said, maybe you should go to some seminars. Maybe you should go to read some books. Maybe you should look at, getting a more positive attitude. And I'm like, yeah, I've read all that stuff. I'm not interested. Just show me the money. I was impatient. I wanted to get rich quick. I was in a hurry. And he said, that's what's holding you back. It's a psychology. Millionaires think differently. How do they think? But he says also you need the strategies, but strategies are only 20%. Who won the AFL this year? Geelong, is that right? And who do they play? Oh, Collingwood. Oh, we have Eddie here later today, don't we? He's out of his depression, hopefully. So, Geelong. Let me ask, as a coach of Geelong, the week before, are they teaching the AFL players how to play AFL, yes or no? No, they're professionals. They learned that a long time ago. Most of the training is on what? Strategy or mindset? It's mindset. We have the World Cup final, is that this weekend on Sunday, is it true? New Zealand. The greatest rugby union team on the planet that somehow manages to lose the World Cup more times than any other team. It's not because they don't have the ability. It's not because they don't know how to play rugby. They know how to play very well. But what they've suffered from is a psychology problem. And hopefully Sunday, for those Kiwi friends in the room, I wish you well. Go France. I believe in miracles. No, good luck to New Zealand. They deserve it. They are playing well, and I would suspect they will win. The point is, though, in the past, New Zealand in union has often lost when they should have won. Why? Because the expectations and pressure on that country, on those individuals to perform, often out of state. And they don't have the psychology, and they often play below their standards and get beat by other teams. And often were beaten by Australia, is that true? Often when they were Australia wasn't as good as New Zealand, but somehow they would manage to win because they have a certain psychology where they would outperform. Does it make sense? So the week before any of that, it's all about psychology. It's just about you. What is your psychology? How do you know how good your psychology is? Check your results. If you're doing really well financially and you're doing as well as you want, you go, I'm not changing a thing. But if you don't have as much abundance in your life right now, as much money as you want, I'm going to suggest, look at your psychology. The first step to creating change is what? Awareness. Well, some people say, Jamie, well, I've been taught to be successful, you have to be persistent. Okay, but doing the same thing over and over again is a definition of what? Insanity, true? So some people will say, well, you just got to be persistent, you got to keep on doing. Well, no, that's not what you need to do. Yes, persistence helps, but if you're trying to walk through a wall and you walk into the wall and I hit my head and it's not working, but I've been told to be persistent. Let's keep on walking. Let's keep trying to get through that wall. All you're going to end up is a headache Does it make sense? You're not going to get your outcome. You need to step back and be aware and go, hang on a minute. What's the shortcut to success? Is there a shortcut to success? Well, at school, we were taught not to copy. Is that true? Remember, at school, we were taught not to copy. I'm going to tell you, in the 21st century, folks, the key to success is to copy. Now, the Chinese are going, absolutely, we agree with you there. We copy everything. In China, copywriting, has been the right to copy. So I'm not here to suggest that we should copy intellectual property. We're going to call it, jot this down, we're going to call it modeling. We model, okay? But think about China, one of the greatest economies on the planet. Why? Because they are very good at copying. Now, they mightn't always obey intellectual property, but in China, they feel it's an honor. If something's good, they copy it. It's honoring what they're copying. Does that make sense? But they do outperform because they are very good at modeling. So modeling is critical in the 21st century. Find out someone who's producing the result you want. Learn off them. How many people I get, emails all the time or business proposals? Jamie, you think this business would work? Or, Richard gets like so many business proposals. It's ridiculous, but, he listens to a lot of them. But how do you know if a business idea will work? I say, well, the simplest thing is this, if you're starting a company or whatever you want to do, is guess what? Someone probably has already done what you want to do. So don't reinvent the wheel. Find the model. I don't care what you want to do on this planet. Find someone who's already doing what you're doing. Find their website. Google. I mean, how hard is it these days? You Google everything. Find out a successful model and start something from there and make it better. Adjust it to make it unique, what you want to add to it, your personality, but make an existing model and make it better. Otherwise, everyone's starting at the bottom again. Society doesn't advance if we keep going back to, let's invent a wheel today. No, someone's already invented the wheel a long time ago. Let's make the wheel better. Let's make the wheel faster. Let's change it. Let's tweak it. Does it make sense? Modeling, so it sounds very simplistic, but Steve Jobs said the greatest sophistication. Sorry, let me repeat that again. Put it on the screen and I'll remember what it is. He said, jot this down, simplicity. Leonardo da Vinci, but Steve Jobs often shared this. He said, simplicity is the greatest sophistication. So many people, like when we're talking financial strategies this weekend, people going, well, that sounds too simple. Professionals make things simple. Steve Jobs, probably the most successful entrepreneur that was on the planet until recently. He had an amazing capacity. Yes, he was sophisticated and had to create these sophisticated products, but he made them so simple that a 5-year-old could put a computer together, like an Apple Mac. You just plug it into the PowerPoint, that's it. He knew it had to be simple to use, otherwise it wouldn't work. A lot of people think, well, financial stuff, it must be really complicated, it must be really hard. It can't just be that simple. How can I make more income than I make from working just from one strategy or several strategies in 30 minutes a month and make more money than I make from working 160 hours a month? It just doesn't compute because we're taught to make money, you have to work hard. But how can you make money without working hard? It doesn't compute, so people shut it down. Does it make sense? So having a mentor is critical, and that will certainly help me. So one of the first lessons my mentor said, he said, Jamie, because I was bitching and moaning about my situation, he said to me, how much are you saving? One of the first conversations. How much are you saving? So I'm trying to convince this guy to be my mentor. I'm trying to convince him that I'm serious and worthy of being mentored. So he says, how much are you saving? I'm like, you don't understand. I've been all this debt, blah, blah, blah. So I go into my story. He goes, don't waste my time. He said, if you can't save money, then you can't live your dreams. I thought you said you were committed. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, rich people are bastards. But he was being brutally honest with me. Is that true? Because jot this down, we can either make money or we can make what? Excuses. But he said you can't make money and excuses at the same time, so make up your mind which one you want to do. And is that true? How many people live their life, jot this down quickly, how many people live their life below the line? They make excuses. I was making excuses why I couldn't be more successful. I was making excuses. And not only that, he said, other people, what they do is they blame other people. I was blaming the telcos. I was blaming my business partner why I'm in all this debt. I was making, now, it was a valid excuse, but excuses weren't helping me. I was bitching and moaning about my situation. And he said, Jamie, here's what you need to do. You need to get a list of your assets and liabilities. And I said, well, a list of my assets, that won't take long. I don't have any. And he goes, that's your problem. I'm like, no shit, Dick Tracy. I know I don't have any assets. He goes, no, you don't get it. Your problem is you don't think you have any assets. He said, that's your problem. He said, write down your assets. He said, you're healthy, aren't you? Is that not an asset? He said, I mean, how much is our health worth when we think about it? He said, you can speak English, can't you? I said, sort of. I grew up in the country, but yeah, pretty much. He said, you can write that up, can't you? I said, yeah. He said, put this in your asset column. I'm like, well, how can this be an asset? He said, put it in the asset column. He said, you're 21, aren't you? At the time I was. And he said, that's an asset. Think about it. How much would, Kerry Packer, when he was alive, how many billions would he pay to be 21 again? I mean, who here, raise your hand if you'd like to be 21 again? Knowing what you know today. Imagine the fun you could have. So he said, how much would Kerry Packer pay if he was alive to be 21 again? Would he give away all his wealth to have that health? How much would Rupert Murdoch pay to have that sort of time again, to be young again? How many billions would he pay? How much would Hugh Hefner pay to be 21 again? Okay, as much as he's got. Does that make sense? So we actually have these assets out. He's saying, list down all these assets you have. He said, you're healthy, you're young. He said, put this down. He said, you're in a lot of debt. I said, well, that should be in the liability. He said, no, it's an asset. He said, if you, at your young age, can convince that many people to loan you that sort of money, then that's an asset. What he was getting to highlight is that he said, Jamie, you already have everything you need to become successful. The only thing holding you back is your story. Jot that down, by the way, your story. He said, the only thing holding you back is your story. Your story is about excuses. Your story is about blame. Your story is about being a victim. Your story is about it's not fair. Let's jot this down, by the way. In case you haven't figured this out already, jot this down. Life isn't fair. Jot it down. Because I don't want to hear any more bitching and moaning about our lives. Oh, Jamie, it's not fair. You don't understand. It's just not fair. This shouldn't have happened to me. Or this happened, or that happened that holds us back. Life is not fair. You already know that. Is that true? So what do our kids tell us? Build a bridge and get the hell what? Get the hell over it. Because how many people blame, excuses, victim, why we can't do things? We live below the line. And wherever we live below the line, we're not going to get what we want. Making sense? So he helped me understand what my assets and what my liabilities were. Okay? So that was one of the turning points for me, to stop feeling sorry for myself and get out there and have a go. He said, the key to success is failure. You think, Jamie, you've failed, you're almost bankrupt, 21 years of age, you think that's a bad thing. He said, that's the key. He said, the reason most people do not achieve a fraction of what they can is because they haven't failed enough. So Richard Branson has over 400 Virgin companies. Many of those companies have not been profitable. Many companies in the Virgin Group have been failures. But he has 8 billion-dollar companies in separate industries. Who'd be happy with at least $1 billion company, by the way, let alone 8? But Richard Branson's successful because he has failed more times than other people. Making sense? So do we want to avoid failure when we really don't? Then you say, Jamie, but I don't want to fail. Well, if you don't want to fail, here's what you do. Find a role model and learn off their failures to avoid the failures. Does that make sense? The reason we're here today is because of the pain that I went through financially 17, 18 years ago. You know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes. Threshold, I will not tolerate having being broke ever again in my life. I will not tolerate being almost bankrupt. I'm going to do whatever it takes to change my life. Hit that threshold. And as a result of that, that changed my life. And then I developed the skill sets, financial skill sets, that other people would come to me and say, well, Jamie, how did you get out of debt so rapidly? How did you generate this cash flow? How did you build multiple forms of income? How did you do that? How did you get into real estate with no money? How did you do all those things? And I'd start to share. And eventually that turned into sharing a lot of people, of teaching them those skill sets. So, making sense, yes or no? Quickly turn to the person next to you and just teach them what I've taught you. You've got 30 seconds each.